When I forgive you not for you. I forgive you for me. Because I've seen what it'll do in other people. I was looking at a story from Eva Moses Kaur. And Eva Moses Kaur is an Auschwitz survivor who forgave the people who she saw torture and horribly murder her family. And I was thinking about that because I was talking to a customer the other day who was having trouble forgiving a coworker. And the coworker had stolen her idea and presented it to the boss. And she really had trouble getting over that. She couldn't let it go. And she said, how can I forgive her for something like that? And what I explained to her was, for me, it's about forgiving the person. Because we all really suffer from the same affliction, just different forms of it. I believe, depending on what religion you are, I'm not really bound to any religion. I don't subscribe to any particular religion, but this woman was Catholic. And I was talking to her about, well, if you are Catholic, if you are Christian, then you must believe, if you believe that we're all brothers and sisters. I believe that we're all really the same thing. We're all made of the same stuff. There's very little when it comes right down to it on a physical level, much less a metaphysical level, that separates me from the person standing next to me or standing across the world from me. We're all the same stuff. When you look at it from a physics standpoint, we are all the same stuff, and there's really no separation between the two of us, and we all really have the same problem, and we all have the same solution, and that's really love. And to love means I'm going to love you, I'm going to love the source that made me, I'm going to love everybody in the whole world, and I'm going to love myself because it's all the same. And part of really being loving is being forgiving. And I talk a lot about how it's important to me to love the people with whom I work. It's important to me to forgive the people with whom I work because it's important to me to recognize that the relationship with the people with whom I work is no different from any relationship that I have with any other person, with the universe, with myself. And when I forgive somebody, I'm not forgiving the actions that you performed. I'm not forgiving you for taking my idea and giving it to the boss. I'm not forgiving you for standing me up on Friday night. I'm forgiving you as a person because that's just a different form of the same affliction that I as well suffer from. And, when I was looking at Eva Moses Kaur and how she forgave her captors, what she said was, I have the power to forgive them. So I did that. And in doing so, I set myself free. I just about passed out when I read that because it's true. That's what I feel. As I said, I'm a selfish communicator. I feel differently when I forgive somebody because we can truly be alchemists and miracle workers. When I was talking to the woman about her coworker who stole her idea, I asked her about her religion and I said, well, you believe in the story of Jesus then? You believe that he went up on the cross and died, correct? And then came back. She said, yes. And I said, well, think about that because the story of Jesus goes, for me, it's not important whether or not the facts are real because the story itself has been made real by the belief that so many people have in it. And when Jesus was on the cross, that was pretty much the climax of the story. For me, that was it. That was the big moment where things were going to change because he was being crucified. And when I think about that, they took him, dragged him down the street, yelled things at him, called him every name you could possibly call somebody, humiliated him, threw rocks at him, nailed him up on a cross in front of everybody to further humiliate him as they crucified him. Sound familiar? And left him there to die. And as he was dying, at that climactic moment, if you were watching the movie, the Red Sea movie, you know what I mean, where he was on the cross dying. Now that is the moment of the story where if you have something to say, you would say it. That is it. And his message was super clear. His message was really simple. Forgive them. They don't know what they're doing. Forgive them. Now he did not say, as some people have said to me, well, we forgive the sinner, but not the sin. What is that supposed to mean? What degree of sin do you reserve for forgiveness, and what degree of sin do you maybe have to consult with God first? Or, why would we separate the sinner from the sin? Jesus did not say to do that. He did not say, well, Forgive them, Father, but don't forgive their sins. His message was very clear, forgive them, period. If he had more to say, I'm sure he would have. He had the platform. His message was simple, forgive them. The other part of his message, by the way, he said what? It doesn't matter whether you're a Christian or not. Forgive them, because that, by the way, the reason I say it doesn't matter if you're Christian or not is because that story has truth to it. And the reason I know it has truth to it is because any story that lives throughout 2,000 years to still be touching people's hearts today is going to have truth to it. We recognize truth. We can recognize truth in a story that's fictitious or in a story that's true. We recognize truth. And that story is so true for so many of us that one person in history, whether it's a fictitious history or not, changed the entire world. One person was able to change the entire course of human history with his message, and it was, forgive them, they do not know what they have done. Meaning, they're not in their right mind. When we do something that requires someone to forgive us, we're not thinking clearly, we're not in our right mind, we're literally insane. Because if we knew at the moment of doing whatever it was that we did that requires forgiveness, if we knew what we were doing and were in our right minds, we would have done what it takes to express great love while getting our own needs met. We would all do that. We would do it all the time if we could, but we just don't know how. And really, we're either expressing great love or acting out of fear all the time. When you look at what people do that requires forgiveness, to us or to somebody else, it all comes down to the same thing. It's either something they did out of love that doesn't require forgiveness, or we do things out of fear that then requires forgiveness. We all have just different forms of the same affliction. So how can I not forgive you? Especially because that means I'm not forgiving myself. We're the same thing. It's all connected. We're all connected. That's why I say I'm selfish. I don't forgive you for you. I forgive you for me. And when Jesus was on the cross and he had one message left, it was forgive. And you're telling me that you can't do that because somebody stole your idea at work? Are you kidding me? Somebody stood you up on a Friday night and you can't forgive them? Are you kidding me? Somebody called you a name or treated you poorly in front of other people? Somebody divorced you? Somebody divorced your parents and you can't forgive them? Are you kidding me? Did they crucify you? Did they? Did they crucify you? Did they drag you down the street, throw rocks at you, nail you up on a piece of wood, and leave you there to die in front of everybody? Because the only person I know who did that, who had that done to him, said, hey, when this happens to you, I'll tell you how to achieve great happiness, not just now, but forever, and that is forgive them, period. They don't know what they're doing. If they did, they wouldn't be doing it. And you can't forgive somebody because they stood you up on Friday night? I mean, we're all someplace between being stood up in Auschwitz. And when I listened to the woman talk about Auschwitz, and I looked at her face, because she's a glowing woman. I hope she's still alive, because it wasn't that recently that I saw the interview. She was glowing. Her face was filled with joy, and it wasn't false. When I look at her, I admire her. There are people who attack her, by the way, for not supporting their cause, anti-Nazi cause. And I don't know anything about that. I wasn't, in the situation, but I can say who I can look at and instinctively know that I admire, and I admire that woman because she's glowing from the peace and happiness that she has found in the power of forgiveness. She's forgiven them. I'm assuming that she has also forgiven a boyfriend who may have stood her up on Friday night. I'm guessing. And it's amazing when you do it, because when I forgive you for standing me up, when I forgive you for stealing my idea, when I forgive you for betraying me, when I forgive you for abandoning me, when I forgive you for lying to me, it's all the same stuff. It's just different forms of the same affliction. And when I forgive you, I'm doing it for me. Just like the message from Jesus up on the cross was simple, forgive. I know now what that means, and I hope that if you're having trouble forgiving somebody that you can do it. Remember, you're forgiving the person, not what they did. Just as you would want somebody to forgive your mother, or forgive your children, or forgive you. Because that's really what we're doing. We're forgiving ourselves. People who have trouble forgiving other people, you will notice, if you haven't, that they can't forgive themselves. That's the real issue, because there's a trinity of relationship. And the relationship trinity is I have a relationship with myself, with my creator, and with everybody else on the planet, and it's all the same relationship. It's just one relationship. So if I'm having trouble forgiving you, I'm really having trouble forgiving myself, because I'm recognizing that that form is simply a different form of the same affliction that I share. But you know what? I believe in miracles. I've seen them happen every single day, because when you look up what a miracle is, it's some transformation, something that's inexplicable, that can only be explained with great faith. And I have seen miracles be performed, and I have performed them in my life, because when you take something that seems like it's hopeless, when you take a relationship that seems like it's dead, when you take sadness and you transform it through what seems like nothing more than alchemy, you're taking something and transforming it into something else inexplicably. That's a miracle. Your whole life starts to change. And that's what happens, because when every single time somebody betrays you, or lies to you, or hurts you, or deceives you, or does you wrong, that is your opportunity to create miracles, because that person is going to be someone who enslaves you for the rest of your life, or someone who frees you, depending on who you decide to be to them.